Welcome back everyone. We're going to be doing another comparison today against the Google Pixel 4a, the newly released one, against the Google Pixel 2. Now, I've owned both these phones. I own both these phones. The Pixel 2, in my opinion, was, when it came out, one of my favorite phones at the time because stock Android, pretty cool looking. I kind of like that boxy design, but when you look at that phone today, it really doesn't look like the best flagship phone of the time. Even phones like the Pixel 3 that had way less bezel, a lot of people don't look at that phone and be like, oh my god, that's such a good looking phone. Unfortunately, because the Pixel 3 I think is a really good phone too, but definitely when it comes down to it, when you look at a phone like the newly released Pixel 4a, that is what a flagship looks like nowadays. And the fact that the Pixel 4a costs that $350 is definitely insane because it's such a good price and such a low price to pay for a phone like that. So definitely when I'm comparing these, keep in mind that the Pixel 2 came out in 2017. It's an older phone and we have to give it some slack here and there. So starting off with the front, first of all, I'll tell you, if you want to pick up the Pixel 2, you can easily find them all across the internet for like less than $150. And if I find any on Amazon, I'll link them down in the description below so you can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now with the Pixel 2, starting off with the front, you have a 5-inch AMOLED display on the front. It's 1080p and it's not a bad display, but the thing is that because there's so much bezel around the phone and because it's primarily made out of plastic, it gives the facade that the display isn't really as good as it is. And it's not like the best display, it's not even the best 1080p display. I think the Pixel 4a has a better display, but the Pixel 2's display isn't bad. And coming out in 2017, keep that in mind, like I said, it gets pretty bright and I think it's just not that bad. I just think, like I said, the facade is that because there's so much bezel around it, it just doesn't really look as good as it could. But even then, I never really had any complaints about it. And because it's stock Android, it just looks so good. And like I said, I just don't have any complaints about it. No hole punch display, no notch, no nothing like that, which actually might be a preference for some people. Maybe they don't want anything to, obscuring the view. So kind of keep that in mind as well. But the Pixel 2, I think the screen is great, but everything surrounding the screen may not be the best design choice for sure. Where the Pixel 4a has that 5.81-inch OLED display, and this one is 1080p as well. And it's funny because the pixels per inch are just a little bit higher than the Pixel 2's. And when you compare these phones, okay, when the Google Pixel 2 came out, it wasn't like a $200 or $300 phone. It was a pretty expensive phone at the time. And when you look at the Pixel 4a, this is a $350 phone. This is substantially cheaper than the Pixel 2 when it came out. And look at how different they are in terms of design. The Pixel 4a looks like a flagship phone of this day and age. It looks better than the Pixel 4 that was actually the flagship. And that's actually pretty impressive what Google was able to do. And I give a lot of credit where credit is due, and Google really knocked it out with this Pixel lineup with the 4a for sure. And just see how crazy evolution has came for these phones. I mean, every single year we're getting better and better looking phones. And a phone like this, what the Pixel 4a looked like back in 2017, I mean, we didn't even have a phone like that. The closest thing was probably like the iPhone or maybe the Galaxy S8, and those were flagships at the time. Think about it. So definitely the 4a knocked it out of the park for sure with this design this year. However, they did cut corners in a couple other places, but it's funny because the same places where the Pixel 4a kind of cut corners at, the Pixel 2 kind of also lacks in, so that's another thing to keep in mind. Now they both have USB Type-C ports, which is really cool, and on the back, fingerprint sensors, which is nice, almost in the exact same spot, but the camera setups are set up a little bit differently. So a single camera setup on the Pixel 2 and a single camera setup on the 4a, both are almost identically the same. However, I do think the quality is better on the 4a. No wireless charging or anything like that, which is again another random thing. I don't know why they did that. They could have done it on both, but I'll talk about that later. And pretty much primarily built out of plastic. However, I kind of do feel like that the Pixel 2, the plastic that phone is built out of, it makes it feel a little bit better than the plastic that the Pixel 4 is made out of. I'm not really too sure why. I think it has like something to do with like the shininess of it or like the smoothness of the plastic or something. Like I said, I'm not an expert. I really don't even know what I'm talking about half the time, but I definitely do think that the Pixel 2 feels a little bit better in the hand. It's kind of weird, but you guys are able to tell over the video of what I'm talking about. They both kind of feel like the same size in the hand. One really doesn't feel way bigger than the other one, but because there's so much bezel on the Pixel 2, it just looks like they could have done so much more with that design. But again, back in 2017, that's what a lot of phones were looking like. So you also have IP certification on the Pixel 2 as well. IP67 dust and water resistance, which is really, really cool. So for sure, at the end of the day, you have some more capability on the Pixel 2, but definitely, I mean, other than the IP certification, the Pixel 4a looks like the way better device. And honestly, if it just came down to the design, I would way rather pick up a Google Pixel 4a than the Google Pixel 2 in my opinion. Now that pretty much covers it up there. Now hitting on the software, this is very interesting because I actually have the Android 11 beta on my Google Pixel 2. I'm updated to the latest version, and what's really cool about this is that for the most part the Pixel 2 runs Android 11 pretty well. And I talked about this in a whole separate video too, but it's like for some reason the Pixel 2 and all these other older Google phones on stock Android, they run these newer versions of Android really nice. And there's some pros and cons with that. Some pros, obviously like it runs fine, I don't really have too many issues, but some of the cons are, there's not enough features. And unfortunately the Pixel 2 I think is ending on Android 11 as far as I know. Now Google could change things up, Samsung just changed things up, so I'm pretty sure Google could do it too and increase the longevity of their devices. And if they were to do that, that would actually make a more compelling device. But as of right now, the Google Pixel 2, as far as we know, is probably getting an extra year software support. So it's going to end on Android 11. So whenever that comes out officially, a year after that's pretty much done. Where the Google Pixel 4a is pretty much just getting started. It started off with Android 10. It's going to get Android 11, 12, and then 13. I think it's going to end on 13, but I could be wrong. It may go longer, it may go shorter, but that's pretty much how we're seeing it so far. And I really hope that, Google actually supports their phones for a super long time, because they already do. But if Samsung increases their life cycle support, I really hope Google will do it too. So in terms of software, the Pixel 4a will definitely win right there. Now hitting on the performance, the Pixel 2 had a Qualcomm Snapdragon 835 chipset, an octa-core CPU, an Adreno 540 GPU, and 4 gigs of RAM on each model of the phone. There was a 64 gig base model and 128 gig top tier model, where the Pixel 4a has that Qualcomm Snapdragon 730G chipset, an octa-core CPU, an Adreno 618 GPU, and 6 gigs of RAM. There's only one model of the Pixel 4a, the 128 gig model, and with the 6 gigs of RAM. Pretty much the Pixel 4a every single time is the faster device, almost, I think it was every single time almost, all apps open up faster on the Pixel 4a, which is expected. It has, a newer phone, even though the chipset technically isn't really, the chipsets are a little bit different. So kind of keep that in mind, but that's not a bad thing. The Pixel 4a I think is a good performing phone for sure. It beat a lot of the other phones, like with my iPhone 11, it kind of beat that too in some cases. So I definitely don't want to, hate on the Pixel 2 too much either, because like I said, that phone came out at, almost 3 years ago. It's expected for that phone to not, be as fast as a newer budget phone, but even then, it's really surprising to see how a phone that was kind of, termed to be the flagship of the year from Google is getting beat by, a phone a couple years later by Google. And I think that's the beauty of the tech community and just beauty of electronics overall, is that parts get cheaper, parts get better, and you just kind of move on from there. So definitely the Pixel 4a I feel like is the faster phone, and I feel like it's a smoother phone as well. The Pixel 2 is also a pretty decent device, but I definitely do think that the Pixel 4a is probably this better, smoother, faster device than the Pixel 2 for sure. So, and that really pretty much covers it up in terms of the performance. Now hitting on the cameras, like I said, single camera setups on both. They're almost the same exact camera setup. Single 12.2 megapixel sensors on both. You can do 4K at 30, no 4K at 60 on either of these phones. On the Pixel 2, like 2017, kind of expected, but I still feel like the Pixel 4a could have, had it. You know what I mean? Like that would have been really cool. But it is what it is. It's totally okay. You have optical image stabilization on both lenses as well. And you know what? It's not even a shocker. I do think that Pixel 4a probably has the better photos, but if you guys want, I'll do a full separate camera comparison to kind of show you guys and kind of have a better opinion on it. But for my first glance, for me testing them and everything, it's just the Pixel 4a has the better software. And I think that's what it comes down to. You have more software enhancements on a Pixel 4a than the Pixel 2. And I think that's a very important thing to keep in mind. Software is very underrated in the tech community. And I feel like these phones for sure really knocked it out of the park. On the front, 8 megapixel sensors on both, 1080p. You can shoot 30 frames per second on that. And it is what it is, but it would have been really cool if we could do 4K on that Pixel 4a, but it's not really anything we can do about it now. But that really pretty much covers it up there as well. Now ending it off with the battery life, we have a 2,700 mAh battery on the Google Pixel 2, and on the Pixel 4a, we have a 3,140 mAh battery. And for sure, like I said, when it comes down to it, I think the Pixel 4a wins here too. You have not only a smaller battery on the Pixel 2, but batteries degrade over time. And unless you're getting a brand new Pixel 2, your battery on that device has probably gone down quite a bit in terms of the battery health and the longevity of it. With the Pixel 4a, brand new device, the battery probably hasn't degraded that much. And a very important thing to keep in mind is that you're getting a bigger battery in it anyway. So the battery life is going to be better for the most part anyway, most of the time. So in terms of everything, that pretty much covers it up for the most part. Now, if I had to pick one up, obviously I would pick the Google Pixel 4a. I don't think there's a shocker there. However, if I had to go out of my way and let's say I had the Google Pixel 2, would I go and upgrade to a Pixel 4a? In my opinion, I would probably do it. I think you're getting a better phone for sure from the Pixel 4a, but there's also some other phones that you can go and upgrade to. Like, I think the Pixel 4 is probably a better way to go, as much as I hate to say it. Google's not really selling them anymore as far as I know, but if I find any, I'll link them down in the description below. But I still think that kind of makes up for everything that the Pixel 4a doesn't have. Even though it doesn't look as good as this phone, you're getting an extra camera sensor, you're getting wireless charging, and I think those are some very important things to keep in mind as well. But I think the Pixel 2, if you could make it last a little bit longer, then be my guest. But I would just end up waiting for the Pixel 5 anyway, because I think that phone is going to be pretty crazy. So that's really pretty much it. If you guys have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that means so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys could hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.